My name is Sarah Root-Simone. I am a recent master's recipient for a reading specialist degree from Worcester State. I am a K-5 ESL teacher presently in the Wachusett School District.
My name is Megan, and I am a high school biology and physics teacher, and I'm super excited here to share with you my experiences in Kenya.
So my name is Casey Pappas, and I'm in my third year of teaching, which is what pushed me to go to Kenya because I really wanted to see what else I could experience out there, especially because it was literacy-based, and I teach ELA, so I felt like it gave me a really good perspective on what else there is out there that I could also bring to my classroom.
The experience as going down there to teach was so much fun. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. But what I felt while I was there, I can't even put that into words. It was moving, it was fun, it was exciting, it was humbling, it was everything and more, probably more than what I thought it would have been.
It was amazing. It was just eye-opening. It was fantastic. I mean, just to be in another country that it's a developing country, right, and to see how different that is from the U.S. was just fantastic, and just see what it's like what the world's like.
That's the word I'm looking for, it is life-changing to be more cliche, but it definitely is because I didn't come back the same person that I was when I left there. I came back a more confident and a different educator than I was when I left.
The Old Kalau Library is in this town of Old Kalau, which is probably about 70,000 people population. It is, I want to say, a four-room library built out of cinder blocks, if you can imagine that, this sort of a beige color.
So it's set up into two different areas. It's for the younger kids and then the older teens. And they have a leader for each side. So it was kind of cool. That kid took on the responsibility of speaking for that whole group. We took a lot of the younger kids for most of it, but I had a group of older 17, 18-year-olds, and we just talked about the American government and how, because they wanted to know all about it. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. Something that I take for granted because we just hear about it all the time. They just really want to soak it all in. So they have the two separate sides, and it's completely quiet. Those kids do not talk because they're so into the work that's in front of them.
So they really helped us to have a chance to come in, meet the students when we first arrived there. Our first library day was just go in and meet. And the students, they were very shy at first, and they're all sitting at these long tables. They're all just reading books, and then they kind of look at us and say, oh, who are these people? I think they knew that we were coming, though.
So we all planned lessons together while we were grouped randomly, and we went down there to teach and to show these kids how we teach in states and let them learn from us, and we learn from them as well.
This was their summer break. They had 3 weeks off, and here we are, the Americans coming in, and they had prepared for us to come with all kinds of performances and poetry recitation and dances that they were doing and costumes that they had made, and it was fantastic.
The Samawati cottages are where we stayed, actually, and little tidbit, Samawati in Swahili means blue.
Samawati was beautiful. There were flowers everywhere, African violets just growing out of the grass. I'm like, hey, that's an African violet. It's right there. We'd buy that in a store, but it's just growing out of the ground there. The horses were beautiful. There was, I want to say there was a herd of about 6 horses, and they actually did provide horseback riding if you wanted to do that.
It was oh, yeah, I could take you horseback riding. Here we go. I got to hang out with the sheep and the lambs and the different types of animals that were there that just all frolic.
There were several places that you could stay, and there was one big house that slept 6, and then 3 smaller A-frame cottages that slept 3 each.
But I was a part of the big house, so that was 6 of us, and there was 10 graduate students total. So it was kind of where everybody met up to like meet and hang out. So that was really cool. I was sleeping on like the ground level where the kitchen was, so where we had all of our get-togethers and everything. So I got to be in like all the action, whether I wanted to be or not, but it was still a really good experience. Like we did line dancing downstairs. We just really got to know each other through stories. We did different games together. Like I learned a bunch of different magic tricks from different people. So I got to learn different things from each of the people that was on the trip because of the environment that we were in, which was really awesome. And the people who ran Samawati Cottages were probably the nicest people that I will ever meet. Like they were so welcoming and so just, if you needed something, they were there in a flash. And you could tell that it didn't bother them at all. Like they loved what they did, which you don't really get to see that a lot in America. I feel like a lot of people can get frustrated really easily, but they were just so go with the flow. Whatever happens, happens. It was much more slowed down than something you would experience over here.
And I've talked with other people who have visited Kenya, and they're like, oh yeah, carnivore's been there for like, when I was there 30 years ago or whatever, they'd say that kind of thing. So it's kind of iconic. Yes, it's catering for people that want to eat meat, but they do offer like vegetarian meals. I don't eat red meat, so I was able to find something to eat there.
It was just meat and meat and meat, and it was great because it was exotic meats. It was ostrich, and there was crocodile, and your typical cow or beef, but it was meat after meat after meat. It was quite the spread for a true carnivore like myself. Quite delicious.
I got to try so many different things, from alligator, which I know is common here, but I've never gotten a chance to eat it, so that was really cool. I also had ostrich, which I don't think I would have ever said that I was going to eat. Like, my mom was like, what do you mean you ate ostrich? And I was like, yep, it was right there in front of me. But there was also common things like turkey and chicken and things like that as well. But just being able to, they would just come out with new meats on new meats, and they wouldn't stop until you put up a flag that said that you were good to go. So they were just, like I said before, they're just so welcoming and so wanting to help you and just make it a better experience than it was to begin with.
So we went on a couple of different excursions, and as silly as it might sound, my favorite excursion, and I think a lot of the people that I went with would agree, was going to the grocery store. So we actually wanted to go back to the grocery store several times. It was fun being there because we saw so many native Kenyans there, and we got to really experience their food, well, what their food looks like that they eat there, and sort of how a grocery store operates down there. So as silly as it sounds, it was actually a lot of fun just to go to the grocery store.
I'd have to say my favorite one was to Nakuru National Park, which was about a 4-hour bus ride from Old Kalau. And it was down in the Great Rift Valley. So, you've got the sense of being high in the highlands, which is where Old Kalau is, which is just under 8,000 feet. So we're going down into the valley, and there's lakes there and incredible habitat, right? Number one, like you're looking at like a savanna almost ecosystem. It's all grassland, and then you've got the lake, and this is a really popular lake for flamingos to migrate through. So we did see some flamingos there, but it was just like having that safari experience was awesome.
So it was a bunch of different animals that were living over there. It was kind of like a national park, but a much smaller version. But it was even cooler than a national park because I got to stand probably not even 10 feet from a giraffe, which you would never get to do over here because it's all behind closed fences, or different like wildebeest, or just like all these different birds and zebras, just being able to almost touch them, even without touching them, but like I would have had the ability to do it, just that's how close I was to them.
So I like what everybody's been saying about education and libraries and how important that is. So you have to study very hard, so you do really good in school so that you can do what you want to do in life.
I think that the trip has impacted or changed my relationship with students by helping me to make them more aware of the things that we have here that might be taken for granted, and the dedication that the families had towards, education there, and I try to transfer that back here. Comes up, different times during the school day or different weeks where maybe this particular class is acting up in music class, where I can have some input on that and be like, you know what, guys, I'm like, you're so lucky to even have music class. You go to a music room and you have the opportunity to, sing and play on instruments, and not everybody has that. And it helps them to grow their understanding of what education is like.
Meeting so many of these Kenyans and hearing them tell me things like, I've never seen snow, or seeing the little kids who ran up to me. Absolutely. What happened was we were at the library and I was sitting in the corner and they were kind of giggling at me, and I would ask them, what are you giggling at? And one of them whispered in with her hand up to her cheek, I like your hair. And I said, you do? And to me, I just thought it was a rat's nest. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And they said, can we touch it? And I was like, okay. And in a matter of seconds, it seemed, I had an entire head filled with braids. Working with students now who come from other countries, where something as simple as my hair is so intriguing, how could you not want to talk to your students from other countries and find out what they're all about?
This trip definitely did change my life. Really, like the perspective wise of it, just knowing that I can actually go and put myself out there, because I knew nobody going on the trip before I actually met them. I knew that Professor Canoe, but that was about it. And if you had told me not even 3 years ago that I was doing this, I would have been like, no, you're lying. There's no way I would ever do that. So just knowing that I'm capable of doing that now makes me even more confident to do different things here. And that goes over into my kids as well, because I try to instill that confidence in them just as much. And then I also try to give that patience to them so that they can appreciate education kind of similar to the way those kids did. I don't think it'll be ever to the same extent, but just so that they can value what they're given, and to show them that people in other parts of the country aren't given the same opportunities, but are just as excited to learn.